And it is these adaptations that make the giant bear dog a super predator. But the bear dog wasn't the only predator around. He had some deadly competition, and there could only be one winner. North America, 19 million years ago. A new breed of carnivore has appeared on the continent. It's a vicious immigrant from Eurasia, Amphicyon ingens, the giant bear dog.
All right, let's get up. Come on, Adam, get up. Good, good. So to give you some idea of scale, I'm 6'3". This grizzly bear is about 8 feet tall, and a bear dog is another foot above that.
Jesus. Okay, got it.
He's 650 pounds. A bear dog's 900 pounds. You don't want him leaning up against you.
Amphicyon, the giant bear dog, wasn't native to North America. It was an invader sweeping in from Eurasia during the Miocene epoch, about 19 million years ago. Scientists believed that it traveled to where the food was, literally eating its way across 2 continents. There were plenty of prey to choose from, for this was an amazing period in history. The golden age of mammals, a time when a wide variety of creatures roamed throughout the world. At the time, the American Northwest was a vast prairie similar to the African Serengeti today.
We're developing grasslands, open country for the first time. Groves of trees here and there, and in between sort of an African savanna-like environment.
The grasslands were a meeting ground for a wide range of prey animals. A walking food store for an opportunistic super predator.
We're very near the peak of mammalian diversity when we had the maximum number of species on the landscape and some of the largest things that ever existed.
And the giant bear dog had a wide range of weapons to attack and kill, such as powerful but short forelimbs capable of lightning-quick bursts of speed. Maneuverable paws with long, menacing claws, an enormously strong jaw, and of course, razor-sharp teeth, all designed for one purpose: to kill.
Look at the front end of this animal. Has really, really large upper and lower canine teeth, which are the slashing teeth, the biting teeth it uses to grab prey, stab it, and pull it down. Almost all the rest of the tooth row here is these back teeth, which are huge compared to most other mammals you would find in this time, especially this big tooth right here called the carnassial. And these are the teeth they used as like scissors to slice up flesh and cut up the meat after they've torn it apart. The striking thing you see about this skull is this huge ridge over the top of the brain case called the sagittal crest. This supports gigantic jaw muscles that ran down from this crest and down in the gap here and attached to the lower jaw and pull the lower jaw up, so this would have given it a very strong bite force for the size of this skull.
Like modern bears, the bear dog's most brutal weapons were its killing paws.
It allows them to kill things the way we see grizzly bears kill things today, which is often with a massive swat that knocks the animal over, and then they can place their killing bites wherever they want.
But how does that work in reality?
When you're talking about the tools of a bear dog, have a look at this grizzly bear's paw, just like a bear dog's. Now, this can be used just like a big sledgehammer. If it gets too close to its prey, boom, it's going to come down, use all of this power here, and just knock it down, knock it out, and start eating. Five claws. These claws, ripping, tearing, and oftentimes just slugging. Look at the back of this. All power. One big swipe, it's down and out, and it's dinner.
And like the modern-day bear, the bear dog had a super-sensitive sense of smell.
It has a reasonably long snout, and when we look at the snout, we can tell that it probably had a pretty good smelling apparatus. And so it probably hunted after prey based on smelling it from a long distance away.
From everything we know about the bear dog, their senses are going to be very similar to a grizzly bear. They have 6 million times the smell power that we have. And then that's just honing in on where can I get my next meal, using their ears, see if they can hear something going through the bush. When they go up, they want to see what's around them. They'll get up on their haunches, they'll start sniffing around, start using their eyes, looking around, and their ears. And all of that is just focusing on where can I get something to eat. And then once they find it, this is just like a 600-pound missile.
And when it first entered North America, the giant bear dog was definitely the new beast in town. It cut a killing swathe through every prey item in its path. However, bear dog wasn't the only killer roaming the continent. Meet Dinohyus, also known as the Terminator Pig.
This is Dinohyus, the biggest pig of all. Its skull is over 1 meter long.
This ferocious beast was like a wild boar on steroids.
Think of a razorback hog that's the size of a bison. And now give it all the attitude to that razorback. It is an extremely impressive animal. And that's where that term got coined, the Terminator Pig.
It was a true monster. Bigger and meaner than the bear dog. It ate what it wanted, when it wanted.
Dinohyus walked into the area and it was in charge. It was probably the king of all it surveyed. And those teeth, absolutely enormous. These incisors that are very large, and then these enormous, enormous canines. And this is for biting and pulling off parts of a carcass or any other food. These premolars, extremely large, very thick enamel, crunching, breaking, mostly just breaking things. Imagine a bone in there just being broken in half. Nothing has had teeth that big before. If it was hungry, it would kill meat and it would eat it. But if there's already a carcass laying on the ground, it didn't matter who was on that carcass. Dinohyus came up and said, "It's mine now."
I visualize it more as sort of the garbage collector of this grassland savanna, as the first animal that could go in and could claim any carcass that it wanted to eat, sort of the bully on the block.
There wasn't anything quite like Dinohyus. Even a big bear-sized amphicyon by itself would probably have been intimidated by Dinohyus.
Dinohyus belonged to a family of mammals known as entelodonts, huge pig-like carnivores that were over 2 meters tall to the shoulder, as tall as an American buffalo.
This is an entelodont specimen that was discovered about 100 years ago. It is a fantastic skull. There's been a few bones and teeth found of this animal, but this is the only skull like this. It's a one of a kind.
The startling thing is, this huge skull came from a medium-sized Terminator pig, and it is still larger than the skull of a fully grown crocodile.
Entelodonts could open their jaw amazingly wide. Amazingly wide. Now remember, they have these big fangs here, these huge, huge teeth. And with these huge teeth, they have to be able to open their mouth up large enough to get a part of a rhinoceros carcass in there. That's a lot of food to get into that mouth. We see similar things happening today with some reptiles. Crocodiles have to open their mouth very wide.
The Terminator pig was in no danger of biting off more than it could chew. Its jaw was as big as its appetite and evolved for maximum effectiveness.
Well, when an animal has its jaw that wide, it gets popped in the jaw, it's going to dislocate the jaw. It's very, very dangerous for the animal to open its mouth that wide, unless you have a bunch of muscles stabilizing it from the side. Now, the only way to stabilize muscles from the side is to have something out like this, cantilevered out, to bring the muscles in. And what this allowed for was stabilizing the jaw while it was open. And the reason is so it could put big food in its mouth.
A comparison of the skulls shows how much of an advantage in size the Terminator pig had over the bear dog. This is a bear dog skull about 45 centimeters, nearly 3 times the size of a human skull. And this is a giant Terminator pig skull. At nearly 1 meter long, it's twice the size of the bear dog skull. But even though its skull was huge, the Terminator pig did not have a large brain.
They weren't too bright, were they? They had pretty small cranial capacity.
We overplay how small their brain was. Now, it has a small brain compared to its skull, but when you look at the overall body size of the animal, we find that the brain is comparable to other animals.
Like a hippo, like you said.
Such as hippos, such as other animals. It still wasn't a real bright animal.
A giant bear dog would have to rely on its own wits and weapons if it encountered a Terminator pig. It could menace the pig, nipping at it, circling, swatting, jabbing. But it would be hard-pressed to outfight the pig head-to-head, jaw-to-jaw. For now, the bear dog would have to bow to the Terminator pig, but evolution would eventually give the bear dog the upper hand. However, success would ultimately lead to catastrophic failure. In today's world, the giant bear dog would be a dangerous predator and scavenger, much as it was in its own time, around 18 million years ago. Its only competitor on the continent is Dino-Hyas, the Terminator pig. The Terminator pig's size and ferocity make it nearly invincible. But evolution gives the bear dog an advantage. Over thousands of years, it has been getting bigger, stronger, and more aggressive. As time passes, amphicyon grows into a true megabeast. This dramatic growth can be seen in the fossilized teeth from the giant bear dog and its older relatives.
Let's compare the size of some of the earliest amphicyon-like animals. This is from a specimen about 28 million years old.
That's an awfully small animal.
You know, this is about the size maybe of a small fox, a jackal size kind of thing, compared to our big amphicyon friend. Let's compare the same teeth again, and we see a huge size increase in amphicyon as we go through time. It's a general trend.
It's a small bear dog and a big bear dog.
And this is still a bear dog, but it's just a little bitty guy. It's pretty obvious, you don't have to figure this out too hard, that there's a big size increase through time.
We see this over and over again in the history of carnivores. They tend to get larger over time.
The bear dogs get enormous. One huge, huge animal, but incredibly ferocious, way more ferocious than a bear even.
There's no question this was a big, massive animal. But one of the things we forget when we look at skeletons is that you're just looking at bones. And bones are great. But on top of the bones, you also had muscle, some fat, some skin, some fur. So when you look at this skeleton, you see something that's this tall, but when you add all the soft tissue, you're talking about an animal who was like this big at the shoulder. So this was a really massive animal.
The Terminator pig's tremendous size is no longer an advantage, especially when it comes to competing for food.
Over time, you can imagine those bear dogs getting crafty, getting smart, and maybe coming in and stealing that food.
The balance of power has shifted. After 1 million years of competition, the fearsome Terminator pig becomes extinct. After dominating North America for millions of years, Dino-Hyas has finally been overwhelmed.
I don't think that there's any evidence that would suggest that amphicyon caused the extinction of Dino-Hyas. But it's very possible that once Dino-Hyas disappears, it does open up a great ecological niche as far as sort of being the garbage collector on the grassland savannas that a large amphicyon could have filled very easily.
The giant bear dog is now the apex predator on the continent.
Certainly, if you look at the variety of different types of carnivores that are on the landscape at the time, immediately after the extinction of Dino-Hyas, bear dog is going to be one of the largest.
But size isn't everything. What made this Frankenstein's monster of carnivores such a deadly hunter? A unique set of fossilized tracks allows us to answer this question. This 15-million-year-old bear dog trail, found near Barstow, California in 1960, is a forensic path to tell us how the giant bear dog hunted and killed.
Trackways are exciting things. Okay, paleontologists like to study skeletons because that's what we get. But every once in a while you get lucky and you find what we like to refer to as the smoking gun of an animal's behavior. And that's what trackways are. Okay, so for instance, the trackways here are separated by a distance that tells us how quickly it was moving. And in this case, what we find is that the distance between the prints is about the same as the distance between the limbs. So it's meant this animal is actually moving at a pretty good clip. If you take a look at the feet of amphicyon, you can see that it's up on its toes. It's up on its toes like that. That's sort of like a cat or a dog. When you're up on your toes, we call that digitigrade. Okay? If you're flat-footed, like a bear, or like us for that matter, it's called plantigrade. Well, this animal's a little bit in between. So this is an animal that did run up on its toes. Okay? It wasn't flat-footed like us or like a bear. It was sort of like a fast-moving big football player. Altogether, this animal is an animal that is a combination of some of the best features of both fleet-footed dogs and powerful bears.
But the bear dog was not built for a pursuit.
Take a look at the length of the upper arm bone, the humerus, and compare that to the length of the forearm bones. What you see in very fast-moving animals is that the humerus tends to be significantly shorter than the forearm or the hand. We don't see that in a bear dog, okay? In amphicyon, what happens is that the humerus and the forearm, okay, the upper arm and the forearm are about the same length. And because of that, we know it could move moderately quickly, but not as quickly as, say, a cheetah or a wolf or something like that. This is an animal that could move quickly, probably in short bursts, but it wasn't a super high-speed sprinter. One of the things that's important about locomotion and movement is that it's not just limbs, it's the entire body. And when we look at the way, especially the way carnivores move, is that we look at the backbone. If you look at the backbone, you can see some of the spines in the front angle back and some of the spines in the back angle forward. And so there's got to be a point where those spines angling back and those spines angling forward come together, and that's the spot right there. And that vertebra has a particular name. We call it the anticlinal vertebra. The anticlinal vertebra is an indicator that this was an animal with a moderately flexible backbone, and that's an indicator of an animal that can move fairly quickly. Animals that bend their back can run fairly quickly. If you were to look at something like a cat or a dog, they'd have a really tiny anticlinal vertebra. Okay? This animal has one, but it's not that tiny. So it was an animal that could run, but not quite as fast as, say, a cat or a dog.
not built for very fast running, especially compared to something as fleet as a gazelle like camel or a three-toed horse. This animal more likely would have stayed in the bushes and ambushed a prey item by rushing out from a game trail and knocking it down and grabbing it and killing it. It's not going to be able to outrun it for very long distances any more than a lion can outrun zebras or wildebeests over very long distances.
In this respect, the bear dog was similar to a modern lion. In order to understand how this hybrid functioned, we need to bridge the gap between species. Animal trainer and zoologist Dave Salmoni has worked up close and personal with some of the most dangerous predators on the planet.
All right, hey, cut it out! Cut it out!
Dave has experienced firsthand how large predators such as lions hunt and kill.
Hey! That's enough out of you! Get out of here!
There's a big difference between working with a lion and a bear. The biggest difference is that a lion is a true predator. They're just an opportunistic animal that's always looking for their opportunity to get a meal. Everything we know about the bear dog suggests that the bear dog was an ambush predator. Now, a lion, when he's by himself, that's exactly how he hunts. You're talking about an animal that will just lie in wait. So an animal like this is just out there constantly keying on something, saying, can I eat it? And how can I kill it? And that's what the bear dog was like. A bear dog is a big animal and super fast, but only over a short period of time. It takes a lot of energy to move that much weight over a distance. So he sits there and he waits, and no one's gonna see it. Once he figures, okay, I've got that animal within 20 feet, he launches his attack. And that launch comes out like a shotgun, coming at prey that won't even know it's there until it's already on the ground. And once those teeth sink into that flesh, it's all over. That animal's not getting away, and it's dinner time.
With the Terminator Pig gone, the bear dog was free to terrorize the North American continent. Nothing could stop it. But there were other contenders for the throne. Bear dogs fought each other both for territory and mates.
All carnivores engage in territorial behavior. So amphicyon for sure would have had a territory, and we do know that in amphicyon, in general, they often show what we call sexual dimorphism, in which one sex is different in some way from the other, and in this case, the males are larger. That suggests that the males were competing for females. Neighboring males might battle for those females occasionally, and sometimes probably the younger or smaller one, the weaker one in any case, would lose and often die. These are usually to the death.
An animal this large encounters another bear dog this size. They probably would have been in a pretty amazing fight. These animals probably can inflict serious damage on one another if they chose to go all out.
Other than its own kind, the bear dog had hardly any rivals. With its territory secure, the bear dog had free rein over the Miocene landscape. It could catch and feast upon the bountiful prey. But the bear dog had one weakness. It was a solitary beast. It hunted alone. However, there was safety and species survival for animals that hunted in packs. This creature, a native of North America, was an evolutionary grandfather to modern dogs and wolves. Its scientific name is Epicyon, but it is commonly known as the true dog.
These are large wolf-like canids, and the largest species was definitely as large and probably larger than the largest wolves we have today.
Epicyon was a more specialized carnivore than the bear dog. It had a huge head and powerful jaw with razor-sharp incisors and canines and bone-crushing molars. It was a pure meat-eater and a natural killer. And it had one more killing advantage.
The other thing about amphicyon that was really different from amphicyon is almost certainly amphicyon was social, ran in packs.
It would have given the true dogs a tactical advantage in any confrontation they might have had with a bear dog.
When you're in an ecological environment for a couple of million years together, there's bound to be some time when you're going to run across one another. I think both animals more or less avoided each other, but certainly they ate the same kinds of prey. They would have likely encountered over a dead carcass now and then when one or the other scavenged something that one or the other killed. They likely were interacting, and I guess you could say that they were annoying one another at times. Just like today in Yellowstone National Park, where you have bears and wolves. It was that kind of a relationship in many ways between amphicyon and dogs that were around.
Wolves today work as a team to kill animals much larger than themselves. If the bear dog was the big bully, the true dogs were the gang. One against one, the bear dog was better equipped to catch and kill large prey animals. A pack of true dogs, however, wouldn't hesitate to steal a carcass from a bear dog. The bear dog was about twice the size of the true dog and could easily kill one with a single swipe. But several true dogs attacking at once presented a big problem. The bear dog would be simply outnumbered.
I think true dogs could have stolen from bear dog pretty easily, most of the time if their group size was large enough. So here you have this social, highly carnivorous, aggressive animal moving around in groups, and a single amphicyon is going to have to deal with these.
These were two species that were on a collision course, and only one would win the ultimate battle. For 4 million years, amphicyon, the giant bear dog, and epicyon, the massive true dog, lived side by side in northwestern America. But it probably wasn't a peaceful coexistence. As the competition for food grew more intense, the true dogs may have resorted to a brutal means to eliminate their rival. Paleontologists have found evidence that small species of bear dogs, like their modern counterparts, used dens for their litters. If so, amphicyon may have used dens in a similar fashion, which may have been a fatal flaw.
The thing that's interesting about dens and denning behavior to a paleontologist is it's another example of one of those smoking guns. If you find a den, that means you know a little bit about how it protected itself or how it cared for its young.
The females probably had litters that contained maybe 2 to 4 individuals, and they probably excavated a den or used a den of another animal to hide their young in while they went hunting so that the young would be safe from other predators that might come around and decide they looked pretty tasty.
True dogs may have gone after the most defenseless members of the bear dog species, the pups. There is a modern-day precedent for this shocking behavior. The gray wolf faces a variety of competitors for food, among them coyotes. But the wolf is not fast enough to catch a coyote, so rather than hunt adults, it goes after the pups.
The wolves actually excavate the dens and kill the pups within while the parents are off to the side yelping and trying to do whatever they can, but it's pretty hopeless when there's 5 or 6 wolves going after your pups. They don't eat them generally, they're just killing them to eliminate a competitor. These kinds of competitions between carnivores are very much a part of their life in an evolutionary sense and in an ecological sense. And I think it's very important in driving the evolution of carnivores is the interactions between them, both over carcasses and the fact that they actually seek out and kill the young of each other or the adults.
Confronted with the superior hunting and killing tactics of the true dogs, the bear dog's survival is at stake. As with the Terminator Pig, the bear dog's larger size is no longer an advantage.
There's obvious reasons why you'd want to get big. You can beat up more individuals. You are able to take a wider range of prey. You can dominate carcasses more easily. But there are disadvantages to getting big. And that disadvantage is that as you get big, your population size of a species gets smaller. If you have fewer individuals, you're more vulnerable to random events causing extinction. It could be disease, it could be climate change, it could be the disappearance of your favorite food item for whatever reason, or the introduction of a new competitor. The second big disadvantage of getting large is you have a greater need, absolute need, for food resources per day. If you're quite large, you may have trouble getting enough food to sustain yourself.
Size matters, and size can dictate a vicious cycle that ends in species extinction.
The bigger you are, the more food you need. And of course, they're mammals with a very high metabolic rate. It's almost like a runaway train morphologically. You get bigger and you need more food. You need to get more food, you can get bigger. There's an advantage to being bigger. You win all your fights, and you have very few enemies. On the other hand, you have to serve that body.
Once you get to a large body size, you have a higher probability of going extinct. And amphicyon, with its large body size, that may have been one of the contributing factors for it going extinct about 15 million years ago.
But finding food is getting harder. The largest bear dogs need as much as 50 pounds of food a day, which isn't easy to come by because the North American ecology is changing. The grasslands are turning into treeless prairies, depriving the bear dog of the cover it needs for ambush. It isn't about survival of the fittest. It is all about survival of the most agile.
The prey items like the camels, the horses, the pronghorns are all much faster and longer legged. They may have been harder to catch. It's likely this thing was no longer as efficient a predator as when it first arrived.
Relying on its age-old ambush tactic, the bear dog awaits its chance. But this time, the prey is a step quicker and gets away. One more missed meal. One more step towards extinction.
As the prey changes, the predators need to change with it. And sometimes they change successfully, as the amphicyonids did early on, and sometimes they don't change successfully.
The bear dog is being squeezed by the more modern creatures it resembles, the true dogs and the bears.
They go extinct just about the time that we see the first real bears appearing in North America. So here are some animals that are more specialized for plant eating and omnivory on one side of amphicyanid. And on the other side of amphicyanid, they've got these large wolf-like animals that are more specialized for hunting than an amphicyanid, who was the jack of all trades in the middle.
As the bear dog is pressed from both sides, its population dwindles. In this numbers game, it's only a matter of time before the bear dog is history.
A lot of people think that this animal probably was outcompeted at the time that it died out, because after 5 million years, more advanced predators had come into the scene, and the prey items, of course, were harder to catch. It's likely this thing was no longer as efficient a predator as when it first arrived.
Why didn't amphicyon evolve into something else? Why did the last ones disappear? That's a good question. There are so many possible reasons why they went extinct. It certainly wasn't a failure to be adapted to their environment in and of itself. We might argue that they over-consumed their available herbivores that they were preying on, but we know that's not the case. We know there was an ample supply of things like horned rodents, camels, all these kinds of things. We know that's there.
Why did amphicyon go extinct? We really don't know. That's always the million-dollar question in paleontology. Why did something go extinct? We can look at the ecology, we can look at the climate, or we can just simply think about it going extinct because of it being an old species that had been around for many millions of years.
Could have been any of a number of different factors that contributed to the demise of the bear dog. But what's important to remember is that they were around for a long time. Human beings, our lineage has only been around for about 4 million years. And the lineage that led to bear dogs was around for a lot longer than that. So we shouldn't think of them as a failed experiment. We should think of them as a very successful group for a very long time.
Giant bear dog ruled North America. It came as a hostile intruder and exploited the food resources of its new home, growing beyond its capacity for survival. Every apex predator occupies a vulnerable position at the pinnacle, whether it's a bear dog or a human. The bear dog's time at the top has been and gone. It is now a collection of fossils and bones, and we are currently the apex beast, ruling this planet. But for just how long?